Are we actually here? I didn't know we were here. Hold on. Now I have to mute this. Give me a second. Is there audio? What? Okay, yeah, it looks like there's audio. Let me know you guys can hear me. How long has this been streaming then? It's showing me on my thing, like you can see here. It's like to start streaming, it won't even let me. It doesn't think that it's streaming right now. I have no idea what is going on with YouTube. So yeah, that's weird. Why? Oh, because I'm watching myself. I guess that's why. So let's minimize some of this. Get into Photoshop at what we're looking at. This is the weirdest night. I swear this has been the weirdest day. Everything from pipes leaking that normally I've never had a problem with. Like that was a first. But then it stopped. I don't know. I'll have to call maintenance tomorrow. And things coming unplugged that normally my stand that my computer monitor sits on, the leg fell off. Like I don't even know how that happened. Like how. It's been the weirdest day. Like, and it's nothing big, like nothing major, just so many little things that I'm like, how did this eat? What? Okay. So let's see. So, okay. Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and start. This is just so weird. Let me pull up the page so I can see who we're looking at first. Okay, so today we are starting. This is not really an art chat like normal. I'm not going to be answering viewer questions. We've got a lot of critiques to go through that you guys have submitted. Those who submitted have submitted, well, gosh, this was 10 weeks ago. I'm trying to catch up on some of the past ones. So if you want to submit for this, it's not open yet. I'll be reopening for submissions once I get through the amount that I currently have. Otherwise, it just gets to be too many. So the first piece that we're going to be looking at today, and before I start too, if I give you guys tips on something and you're just like, wow, I thought it was perfect, and you just bursted my bubble saying that something I thought was perfect wasn't perfect. Don't ever be discouraged by critiques, ever. Hopefully they're coming, like if you're getting critiques, hopefully they're coming from people where you, like here, where you've actually asked me to critique, but never let negative feedback, if there is negative feedback, never let that discourage you from painting or drawing. Learn what you can from it and then, hopefully improve. But never take it as a negative thing. These are just tips, and you don't even have to agree with the tips that I give you. The tips that I'm giving you are just the same tips I would give to my students if I were in a class in person with them. But the fact that you are painting, the fact that you are making any effort at all to improve is something to be seriously proud of. And what you start with when you're painting, none of us start out super, I should take this down because it makes it sound like I'm saying she's not amazing, and I'm not, so we'll just get that off the screen. But whatever you start with, none of us are ever going to start being the most amazing artist ever. That comes with time and that comes with practice. So just never let anybody, whether they're giving you negative feedback, and that happens a lot on social media, on Facebook, on anything like that. If you share something and somebody tells you that they don't like it for whatever reason, never be discouraged by that. The people who give you criticism, who, when you didn't ask, those are not generally the people whose advice you really want to take. They're I don't know, some people just think everybody, I just thought of a quote my mom said, but it is inappropriate for this stream about everybody's opinions. But don't be discouraged by anything anyone ever tells you. Hopefully learn from it. Like in the case, like with what you guys submitted, you're specifically asking me for advice, but like, yeah, I just don't want anyone to be discouraged by this. I just want you guys to learn, and hopefully if, obviously not everyone watching today, these won't always be your paintings that I'm critiquing. You should be able to learn a lot from this, whatever I'm talking about with somebody else's, and apply that to your own work. So let's go ahead and get started. The first painting that we're going to be looking at, this came from Eve Hibbs, and if you want to submit in the future, I will announce it in our art group on Facebook. I've got a link to that in the video description, but we're not currently open for submissions for critique until I move through this. My brain is so frazzled right now from just this day, so I apologize if I'm like not making any sense. There's a good chance of that happening on the best of days. So this is Eve Hibbs. Eve started a painting a year ago, so not very long at all. She said she doesn't have a lot of original paintings. All advices are welcome. Cool. So let's go ahead and pull this up in Photoshop. And the Photoshop that I'm using, it's whatever the current version is, because Photoshop, you don't just buy the program really anymore. You're just on an ongoing monthly membership. I think I pay like $10 a month for this and Lightroom. I think those are the two that I'm using. So, okay, we've got a painting here. I'm guessing this is an acrylic. It looks like an acrylic. Oop, I forgot to, let me hold on one second. I need my little handy arrow. Oops, I just saw it and then it went away. There we go. I just need that file available. So if I need to point at something, you guys will know what I'm pointing at. So the reason that I'm thinking that this is acrylic is, I'll pull this over and you can see right, come on, there we go. Right here, see the harsh line where you can see the brush stroke. Usually with oil, it's not going to be that harsh if they're painting wet into wet, and you can tell this was done wet into wet. But if it starts to dry with acrylic, you get more brush strokes. So I'm assuming that this is acrylic. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not pointing that out as being bad. I'm just pointing it out as why I think this is acrylic versus oils. So, okay, I don't need the arrow, so let's get rid of him. So the first thing that I notice on this is the background stands out to me more than the subject, and that is definitely not ideal. There's more contrast in the background there. The other thing that, oh, I do want my arrow back. Come back. Okay, the other thing is, see how these end like right at the bottom? I would pull those stems straight off the canvas instead of just having them barely touch the edge. When this gets framed, whenever you frame a canvas like this, a stretched canvas, a little bit of that frame is going to overlap that edge. You want to make sure in a case like this, that means these little dots would just barely be up against that frame. You either want to end things up sooner or pull them all the way off the bottom of the canvas would be ideal. So that would be tip number one with that background or these stems. Pull that all the way off. The other thing I want to talk about, there's actually two main things. The first is just the contrast of the artwork itself. Well, actually, I'm going to go over the background first. Look at the can that you've got off to the back. It looks like a Coke can. Look at all of these things that are kind of all around it. You've got bright green up at the top that you're seeing in the background. All of that is distracting away even more from the artwork. Now, I like staging artwork. If you guys may have seen my tiger recently. Let me pull it up and I'll show you what I mean by staging. One second. Okay. How big is that file? Yeah, that's big enough. Okay, so this tiger, for that painting, I staged that. And what I mean by staged is it's not just a photo of the artwork. You can see things around it. You can see the background. You can see the brick wall behind it. You can see the table and the little things that I put up against it. This is more kind of a professional looking staging, not a can of Coke, a random thing in the background. Now, I know you're just submitting this so I can see what it looks like, but if you're going to post something online, post either just crop out the artwork so all you see is the artwork, or stage it in front of a backdrop. Like, you can go to the fabrics, you could use sheets. You could get cheap sheets from wherever and iron them. Oh my gosh, seriously, if you're going to use sheets as a backdrop, iron them. I cannot stress that part enough. There's nothing okay, there are things tackier, but seriously, wrinkled sheets as a backdrop, I've seen people do this a lot. Not with artwork, actually. I usually see it when people are using it as a backdrop for photography and didn't bother to iron the sheet, and you're just like, either Photoshop those wrinkles out or iron it. But anyway, you want to make sure that your background looks intentional, not a bedroom or whatever you've got going on. Let's get these out. Oh, thanks, Undecided Mike. That is so sweet. I forget I have super chat until it pops up, and then I get all excited and goosebumpy because somebody, like, that's so kind. Okay, anyway, let's focus, Lisa. This is seriously a hard day for me to focus. It's been that day. Anyway, but when we go to this one, look at the background, how you've got, there's just a lot of stuff. The typical stuff you would have in a room. It's not that it's like dirty or bad stuff. It's just that it's pulling attention away from the artwork. And if you're going to post your artwork online, put a sheet behind it, put a blank wall if you want to do that, or crop it. Look how easy. Now, this is skewed, and this is something we talked about last time. When your artwork is, what did I just do? When your artwork is not centered completely, it does skew the work a lot. Now, in this case, the flowers, it's not going to make that big of a difference, but it does skew the artwork. You want to make sure when you photograph your artwork, So see how along these edges, you can see the upper left-hand corner and the bottom corners, you can see where the artwork is being cropped, like the canvas is not straight on. If it's not straight on, you don't get the same perspective. And actually, I want to show you that. So this is slightly skewed because your canvas was not straight on. And I do want to pull up one more thing again, because I think that this is really important to understand when taking a photograph of your artwork. Hold on, I've got too many things open. Let's figure out what I want. Let's see. It's under portraits. I remember that. Portraits. This guy. So I have two where I staged this at an angle, and then we have straight on. So let's pull both of these over into Photoshop really quick. Drop that down. So here's what that image is straight on. And I'm sorry if you guys were here last time I did this and you know what I mean, or you already know what I'm saying or talking about here. But I want to show this when we get started, because every time for the rest of the live stream, when I talk about the angle, how it distorts it, this is what I'm talking about. This one here, that one is straight on. That is very accurate to him. His head is in the perfect shape for the angle he's at. All of that is exactly right. Now this one, look at how it's taken it at an angle, because I wanted to take a photo of the art supplies. Look at how it completely changes the shape of his face. That makes a really, really big difference when you don't photograph your artwork exactly as exactly straight on. I mean, even just slightly having a canvas, instead of it being like, you know, straight on, slightly one side, I mean, it's mostly the same, that and is enough to skew it. And if it's a portrait, that really matters. Now on the flowers, not a big deal. We're not going to worry about that. Let's go ahead and drop those down. I should just make that one image, because I know I'm probably going to be pulling that up on every critique live stream. So let's go back to this one. I want to show you what a difference it would make if we hyped up the contrast a bit or brightened up the flowers, because I feel like the flowers are just being lost in that background. So I'm going to actually go over to the Wacom tablet, and let's take a paintbrush. And the color that I'm using here, this is actually the same color as the flower. It's just darkened. It was just a lighter version of this. So I've taken that. And look what happens. Whoa, that is not what I meant to have happen. What was that all about? Look what happens when I start pulling out. It's just a darker version of what's already there. It makes the flowers start to stand out more. You've got the lights. The problem is that you don't have your darks anywhere near dark enough on the flower petals themselves. The stems are standing out more than the flowers, and that is probably not what your goal was. So if we can darken up a bit more on these, we'll pull those flowers so that they really just start standing out a lot more. When you want your work to be really striking, the contrast in your subject especially, but the contrast anywhere, the contrast in the values are going to make the biggest difference in people just being drawn into your work. And obviously you can mess with this more. The other thing, I think the stems are way too dark on this. I would probably lighten those stems up quite a bit. Oh, here, a cardinal out there, out on my balcony. But anyway, those would be my tips for this one. Pull those stems down, lighten the stems possibly, make them just not so dark so that the flowers then would be the center point. Now, I like that the center of the flowers are that dark. That actually works, but the stems, I think, are pulling too much attention away from the flowers, which are your goal. So, yeah, I think that is about it for that one. The colors work. I actually like the background. I like the smoothness of it. It's a very pretty, almost an abstract that's not an abstract. Like, it's, whenever it feels like that, it's kind of like mixing abstract and realism together. I think it looks beautiful. But yeah, work on that contrast. You're doing a great job. And for only painting for a year, you start focusing on your contrast. That is going to make all your contrast, and I don't just mean contrast, I mean contrast and values in general. Light's light enough, dark's dark enough. If you keep everything kind of mid-range, which your flowers were the same mid-range as your background, they get lost. So if we can, work on that a bit, that's going to make a big difference. But really good job. Thanks again, Undecided Mike. You are awesome. Okay. So let's go ahead and close that one. And then the next piece is a pet portrait by Beth Munk. It's an 8 by 11 inch graphite drawing. Her goal was realism. Reference photo. Okay, so we've got the reference photo there. So let's take a look at Beth Munk's pup. Whoops, that's not what I needed. Go away. Okay, I have them. Here's one. There's the reference photo, and here's the artwork. So now I do like, now this is a good example. I actually like this as far as being staged quite a bit better than the last. I would probably not chop the top and the bottom off if I'm going to stage artwork. Either, I'll usually go at an angle. If I chop it off, it's going to be more like artsy angled, not just chopping off the top and the bottom. So, you know, play around with that. But overall, as far as being staged with the art supplies, I really like this. And art supplies, I like photos, and I've found when I've taken photos of my artwork and I have the art supplies next to them, I tend to get more response on social media that way than just the artwork by itself. And I think, especially for those who are working in realism, I think that people mistake the realism as just being a photograph. They're like, yeah, it's cool. But when they realize it's artwork, it's like, oh my gosh, that's you know, that's actual, somebody painted or drew that. So having the art supplies taken for social media posts, I think is a great, great thing for increasing viewer engagement. So let's go ahead. Yeah, Jody has try not to use skewed reference photos images too. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so first I want to talk about this reference photo. It's not the greatest photo, just in that the flash was taken. You can see the light. It's artificial lighting, the artificial flash. This is a rough photo to work from. I do like that you've got the highlight on the one side and the shadow on the other, so that is good. But this is going to be a challenge for you. It's a cute angle, but it is going to be a bit of a challenge for you just because of the flash. And when you're first getting started, especially with pet portraits, trust me, get the best reference photo you can, because it is going to make your life so much easier to learn how to do all of that. Okay, so and just as a reminder, I'm not answering art questions tonight. We're sticking with the critiques, because if I do, I'm not going to get any critiques done. I can't critique and answer questions at the same time like I normally would. So it's a little bit different tonight. Now, the first thing that stands out to me, the eyes are obviously very off on the reference photo. And the reason that I think this is happening is you've got a highlight here. Let's pull our handy little arrow up here. Being that we've got the highlight on this eye and the shadow on this eye, I think what happened is you tried to make everything even. You didn't get your shadows, and it gives the illusion like you captured what was shadow on one eye as the actual eye, and everything's just kind of not shaped right. You want to make sure, like you're drawing, I can see where you're going with this, and I can see that you're going to be really good, but you want to spend more time. I mean, there's so much when we look at the drawing that is very, very inaccurate. So let's start with, I mean, little things. You can compare your work against itself. Like, let's look, the ear. When we go straight across, that's, well, I'm not able to make that go straight across easily, but it's you know, the ear's not that much lower. For yours, the ear is like way down at an angle. Things like that you really want to watch for. Make sure you're starting with a solid drawing, a solid, accurate foundation. Otherwise, once you start shading, it's going to be so hard, because you're going to naturally be wanting to fix things. Like once you start working, you'll realize, oh, this was drawn right, now I'm going to try to fix it. And you'll end up spending like 20 times longer trying to fix things than if you would have spent that, you know, 10 times longer making sure your foundation drawing was accurate. So just work on checking your work against itself. For example, if the distance between the nose is the same as the distance between like maybe the eye and here, check to see if like here and here, maybe that's the same as here and here. I don't know if it is, I'm not checking right now. But if it was, then you go to your artwork, your drawing, and make sure you've got those measurements exactly the same. Because you're always going to have things on here. Actually, let's just look at some of these as an example, because this makes it so much easier, I think, to understand. I'm just gonna make a handy little guy and move you. Now move you, change your size. Yes, I talk to myself all the time. You guys just happen to be here to witness it this time. Okay, let's drag this around. Let's see. The distance between, well, let's say the distance between the eyes. We're right about there. Now, I'm not talking about the shadows around the eyes. I'm talking about the actual eyeballs, where they start and stop. That's about where they're going to be. So now I'm going to go around and say, well, what else is the same on here? The distance, I've got an automatic, hold on. It is trying to stop snapping. There we go. That should yeah, there we go. Okay, well, the distance between the side of the muzzle and the nose should be the same. And now that's not just the nose itself. It's the edge of the muzzle here to the nose should be the same as it is on here. So now I can go to the drawing, now your drawing is a bit skewed, so it's not going to be exact. I do understand that, but I'm just showing you as an example. So we go to yours and match it up so it's about the same. And you don't have to use Photoshop to check this. With students, when I was teaching in classes, I would just bring in, or like rip off a piece of paper and match that size, like make a little mark on the paper. Okay, from here to here should be the same as here to here. You can move it around. So that should be the same as here to here. Oh, you're kind of close. You're not that far off. I mean, well, a little bit far off. Well, again, it's skewed. But I mean, that's what I want to check. Is here to here the same as here to here? Well, it should be here to here. That really will help you to make sure that things are much, much more accurate. Now, the shading. Let's move on to shading, because that is definitely something we want to look at. You want to spend more time shading. Here, you've got, there's no shadow on the side here. Whereas this one, look at all those shadows. And whenever you're working on a reference photo that is in color and you're working in black and white, always change it to black and white. So let's go ahead and adjustments. Let's go hue, saturation, black and white. Okay, so now it makes it way easier for us to judge the values. Look how much darker the side of his face is versus yours. Yours is the same on both sides. Look at those shadows. If you can get those shadows, you don't have the shadows there, so yours looks very two-dimensional. You want to make it look three-dimensional. You want to make it look realistic, which you said was your goal. So we want to get those shadows in there. Get those darks dark enough. And again, make sure that foundation drawing, your drawing is close. Like I can see what you were looking at. You're going to be amazing, but you've got to slow down and get that even more accurate. And yeah, get those contrasts. Darks darker, lights lighter, and make sure you can tell what things are. I mean, right here, this is a foot. Whoops, I'm gonna drag that where I wanted. I guess I should pick the right layer. There we go. You've got a foot right here, and on yours, it does not look like a foot at all. I would not guess that was a foot. I guess the other one, that looks like a foot. That one, you're missing all the details. So watch for those things. Those little things all add up. The shadows, the contrast, this is just a big, big deal. And yeah, you're off to a good start. So keep up with this. Slow down, spend more time. That foundation drawing is just such a big deal when you're working in realism. Make sure that that's accurate and then work on your values. Your dark's dark enough, your light's light enough. But I love that you took the photo with your pencils. That's perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close those, and let's see who's next. Oops, paper sticking to the bottom of my tea. Okay. Nope, don't need to save that. Let's head back over to Facebook. Next we have Bobby Brooks Thompson. This is a 20 by 24 acrylic painting on a gallery canvas. She wants to improve her art to achieve realism or hyperrealism. I feel like some of my work is very cartoony. Well, I think your work is a lot better than the reference photo. You are doing good. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna save these to my computer. And then we will open these up, drag them into Photoshop. And here we go. Okay. So there's our reference photo. The reference photo, cute, but not like the most amazing photo. You know, you've got, it's a little bit overexposed. It's kind of blurry. And this is a good example of where people will often ask, what's the point of photorealism or even hyperrealism? What's the point if you can just take a photo? Well, sometimes you have a photo like this one that's not super clear. It's not super amazing, but it's still really cute. And you want to make it better. This is the point. You make a painting of it and improve those things. So yours, you said you were going for realism or photorealism, hyperrealism. Yours right now is a much looser style. I don't dislike that though. I personally like the looser style, but that's going to be personal preference, being that you said you do want to go to more realism. What's happening right now, your brush strokes are very heavy. They're going in the right direction. So that is amazing. Definitely you've got a good solid foundation. Watch things like the lighting. Here, if you look at the reference photo, look at the blues. You actually have blues here around the nose, and you're missing that. You're missing some of the other colors. You're playing it safe. So see that's actually blue. Around the edge here, on the eye. There's blue in there. Make sure that you're getting that in yours too. Yours is just gray, so it looks a little bit more flat, being that you don't have those colors, those additional blue colors. And anytime I'm working on an animal, now this is me, and I guess if you're going to hyperrealism, you may not want to jump to that, but anytime I'm working on an animal that has these tones of browns and tans, I will almost always pull some magentas in there because it just looks amazing. But I love your detail here. Your highlights could be a little bit brighter. I do think I would change that. Right now, your highlights, now the highlights here, a bit overexposed, but I think you could even pull them out just a bit more on yours. But the biggest thing, you said you're having a hard time with things looking cartoony. I think the reason that that's happening is that your brushstrokes are just heavier, and you're also not getting your darks quite as dark as some of them could get. So, for example, let's head over, whoops, that's not what I meant to do at all. Let me blow this up a little bit. I'm going to add a new layer. Okay. So watch what happens. Actually, part of this. Let me see what happens if I just darken this. Would you stop doing that? I keep locking them into place where I don't want them. Here, you just go away and I'll stop doing that. Open up. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. Wrong one. Pick the right layer. If I pull those darks down a bit, lights up a bit. I like the hyped up, oh, I don't even have to draw it. You can see what I was talking about. But look at hyping up the contrast a bit. That does help quite a bit. But the biggest thing, let's cancel. I'm not actually going to leave it that way. The biggest thing, let's look at the reference. Let's zoom in. Whoops. On, geez, how many things do I need open right now? Okay. So what's happening if you want to get into hyperrealism, hyperrealism for me, I have no interest in myself. I'm impressed by it, but I don't have the patience to spend 120 hours on one painting that would normally take me like 10. But what's happening is you're going through things way too quickly. Look at here on the stuffed animal. Look at the texture in that, what is my button to blow this up? That's not it. Oh, because it shut off. Come on. There we go. Look at the texture in the fur here. You have to, if your goal is hyperrealism, you have to capture every single little line, every single texture. Look at the highlight in the face on the inside of the mouth, in the shadow here. When you go and look at your painting, you don't have any of that. You've got texture, you have a rough texture, it's good. I'm not saying what you have is bad, I'm saying what you don't have the same thing. When you get into hyperrealism or even photorealism, you're missing a lot of the little details. Basically, let's say you spent 20 hours on this painting. If you want to make this look hyperrealistic, you need to spend 120 hours. That gives you an idea of the amount of time that it would take to the difference. And that's really, I think, what's happening here is the difference in the amount of time you're spending versus that. And I love that you took out this belt or the it looks like the top of a toy chest on yours. Like, you really did improve on this photo. You should be seriously proud of yourself. Love this. But saying that you're going for photorealism or hyperrealism, you've got to start paying attention to some of the smaller little details. As a more stylized, like, the heavier brush stroke, I like it. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, watch the shadows, watch, I mean, look at the nose, look at how dark that shadow needs to be. Those little things really make a difference. When we come down to the fabric, when we look at yours, look at how your edging here on yours is all rough and all those brush strokes showing. This is not. This is smooth, more smoothly blended. That you would want to spend, let's say, just on that blanket. If you spent maybe 30 minutes on that blanket, you're probably going to want to spend closer to 5 hours. You've got to increase the time spent on every little thing and paying attention to every little thing, if that is your goal, if you're trying to get more towards that style. But like I said, it's hard for me to judge that just because I actually do think, oops, that's not it. I do think that you've really improved on this photo. I think it looks great. I love it. And it's funny because I personally like to paint things a bit more realistic than with the looser style. But I've actually had buyers, when I was taking pet commissions, want the looser style. They wanted people to be able to tell that it was a painting and not a photograph. So part of me wants you not to lose this stylized feel, but I know you said your goal was to make it more realistic. So yeah, just you've got to spend more time on every little teeny tiny area. Get every little texture exactly right. That's going to make a big difference for you. Okay, so let's see who is next. Okay, here's Scott Holt. This is an acrylic on canvas, a 16 by 20. There is no reference photo. Wow. That almost looks photoshopped. See, okay, this is an example when I am talking about the texture. Sorry, frog in my throat. When I'm talking, or not texture, the contrast. The reason that's standing out to me is, wow, those darks are dark, those lights are light. Oh my gosh. Now, on the flip side, the thing that's not balancing this completely, let's actually save this. This is really good though. Let's see. Sounds like someone's running a hose right outside my window. What was that? Okay. So one of the things why I think this looked like a Photoshop to me is that it doesn't feel like the subject is a part of the scene. It feels like the scene was done completely different. The texture, you're doing a great job with that texture, but your darks would need to be way darker in a lot of these areas. Here, let's just do a quick. This is my super lazy way of editing when I don't want to do it right. But it's fast, so we'll do this. So I'm going to show you what would happen if we darken this up. Let's see. I'm going to take this one, that layer. I'm going to just go to curves and pull those darks down a lot. Don't worry, it's not going to stay this way. I'm going somewhere with this. Okay, and then I'm going to drop that behind. Okay, so now I'm just going to take an eraser. Ooh, that is way too big. What did I just do? That was not the button I meant to hit. Come on, eraser. Shrink down. There we go. Hey, look, it's almost like I know what I'm doing. I don't believe it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just show you what would happen. These darks need to be darker. It needs to feel more like he's a part of that. Look at what a difference hyping up the contrast in these areas will make. Now he's going to start feeling like he's a part of this scene. A lot more than before. Now I'm okay with the background. I'm going to leave that kind of faded out. That's actually good because it looks like it's more in the distance. It's not, as in focus. But we want to get these things to really stand out more. And actually, I want to tone this down. I'm going to pull you back out. I want that to not be as bright. That rock is kind of drawing my attention away from the subject here. But that will make a big difference in making him feel, look at the contrast now. He now feels way more like he's a part of this scene. No, and it wasn't that much. I darkened up the other darks. You can actually darken his a little bit more. But get that. That will make a big difference versus, look at the difference of those. He now no longer just looks photoshopped out. He looks more like he's a part of that scene. So that is my main tip on that one, this is beautiful though. I really like the sky. It's not at all realistic. It is clearly a painting and it's just gorgeous. I love the texture that you created there. Really, I mean, all around, I think that this painting is really, really pretty. This, you might want to soften out just a bit. That, no, that's fine too. I'm just getting into personal pickiness, but yeah, that would be my main thing. The darks on the grass around him are just not dark enough, and we can even come back over and make it even more. And it just looks like he's now a part of this. So now look at the depth that I've created too, because look at how up front the colors are bold, they're bright, they stand out. And as you move back towards the tree, into the distance, see how everything just kind of fades out. That's going to create a lot more depth than just having everything the same front to back. I mean, look at the difference. He now looks like he's a part of this. Here, he looks like he was photoshopped in. He doesn't look like he's a part of that scene. But really, really nice. I'm loving this. Okay, let's see who is next. And that was Scott Holt. Beautiful painting. Next we have Bethany Lynne. This is colored pencil, mostly polychromos and Derwent drawing on hot press paper with OMS. Okay, let's save these. Yeah, one of the reasons that I ask you guys what your goal is, and whenever you submit for critique, like when we do it in the future, please tell me what your goals are, because if your goal is not like super photorealistic, I don't want to be giving you tips for what's your goal is not, because one person's goal definitely not going to be the same as the other, and there's no right or wrong goal when it comes to art. It's whatever you prefer. Okay, so let's bring him down. Or her. I'm going to guess being that they have a pink collar. Although I had a male collie that I used to put when I was a kid. He had a hot pink collar, so I guess there's no way to tell. So let's see. I'm going to blow this up a bit more and a bit more. So this is not a great reference photo to work from because it's super out of focus. What I would do, and these dogs have a very textured fur, that wiry fur, I would find a photo. I would just go online, find a photo for this breed that's a more clear photo. I would use this for your outline. You can see where the nose, the teeth, tongue, the ears, everything here, the collar, you can see where everything goes. So I would go with that. But for the texture of the fur, go and just do a Google image search for this breed so you can get a more accurate idea of what that fur texture should be. And then you do want to watch, again, going back to make sure you're watching the foundation drawing, because like the eyes are not the same. They should match more. And I know he's at a slight angle, but not enough to have that eye that much bigger. So you definitely want to watch that. And I think what's happening is when you drew this out, this goes back to like what we were talking about with the first one, or the first, whoops, nope, I don't want you to do that. What we went with the first pet portrait we looked at tonight, this eye has a bit of a shadow. And I think what happened is you included the shadow as the actual eyeball, and that is why you drew it that much bigger. I think I see what you're looking at and why that happened. But just spend a bit more time really watching how to, or the details, making sure that little amount really works. Your nose, you've got a nostril up here and way down here on yours, up here and then down here, like that, those types of things. And now it's hard. This is going back to, this isn't a good reference photo. Cute angle, beautiful dog, really blurry, out of focus, hard to work with photo. And I think that once you get to the point where you've done lots of pet portraits, you can work easily from a reference photo that is like this, that's just not the best quality. But when you're first starting, trust me, if you want to learn to be able to make this look good, you've got to find the most high quality reference photos to learn from in the first place. And there are tons of stuff, like just on Pixabay, or just on, like, you can find tons of breeds or dogs like that people are giving you good photos to work from. Practice on some of the better photos first before you jump into a photo that's kind of blurry, you can't really see stuff. But the shadows are a big deal here. And if we go back over, let's go to this guy. I'm actually gonna add another layer. And let's pull just kind of a, that's not really the color I want. We'll go kind of a deeper, something like that. We're gonna work on you. I want the brush here, and let's go a little bit bigger than that. Okay, so get these shadows in. Okay, that is actually way too transparent or opaque. Let me pull that down a little bit and actually just darken that. So we've got these shadows that we want to start building in here. This is what's going to make your work start looking more three-dimensional. Get those shadows where they go. Don't be afraid of building that up. We've got a lot down here. This is, well, it's not, and here's a good example. Here, this area underneath his lip, you've got that the same exact value as you did up here that's really bright. It's not bright. It should be darker. Those are the things you want to watch for when you're trying to make something look more three-dimensional. Now, I'm not fixing the foundation drawing that's off on this, but I'm just showing you these little things when you start making shadows, what a difference you can start to create in creating a bit more dimension, a bit more, so he's not so flat. Like here, this gets darker through here. You've got a highlight there. We've got a shadow here. Watch where your lights and your darks go, because that is going to make a big difference. Now on this guy, because of his markings, you chopped him off basically right where the black ends, and I don't think I would do that. I think if it were me, I would pull the color continue down here. I think I would continue that, because it's kind of a weird black drop off there. But the other thing is that you want to spend more time watching that texture of the fur. And like I said, this reference photo is kind of terrible, so you're not going to be able to see everything as far as the texture of the fur. That's why you need to go look up something else. You made the individual clumps and clusters teeny tiny, and they should be bigger clumps. This breed is actually really fun to draw, but tedious. Oh my gosh, tedious to get the fur to look like it's supposed to. But go look up different fur, good photos of fur texture. And here's the thing. So you want to obey copyright. You don't want to just go steal someone's photo and copy it exactly. But you can look at a photo that you don't have rights to just to get an idea of the texture to add to yours. You're still using your photo. Your photo reference photo is the one that you have rights to use, I hope. But you can look at another photo just to get an idea of how that fur texture should look if your photo was more clear. So that is definitely what you want to do. And yeah, for anyone who is wanting to submit for critique, those will be opened up again when I don't even know what number I'm at. There's a lot. There were, I think, like 130 submissions when I finally closed it, and I'm not even sure how far I'm into this, but I'll announce it within the art group when it is opened up. But no, that was Bethany, that's actually really, really good. Oh, you did right here. I'm sorry, I missed it because it wasn't on the top one. You said that your goal was realism. You're struggling with the fluffiness. Okay, so we answered all that for you. Yeah, just get a better reference photo and just really watch that foundation drawing is a bit more accurate. So next we have Danielle Croft's colored pencil, no reference. Well, there's not that much I'm going to be able to give you advice on. Oh, I like this though. So here's... And what's happening in something like this, you're having a bit of an illusion right around the swirl. Actually, let's pull this. I really like this. This has a lot to look at. The more you look at it, the more you start noticing stuff. This is really interesting. Oh, it's his horn. Okay, I didn't even notice it's his eye. Oh my gosh, I love this style. Love, love, love this. The more I look at it, the more I love it. This is absolutely stunning. Okay, let's take a look in Photoshop, because the one thing that is standing out to me is this horn. As it turns, I can't tell, is the horn where it gets smaller and curving, is it moving away from you? Is it farther away from the thick part, or is it closer? Easy way to fix this is by how you're shading things. Right now, your highlights are exactly the same throughout everything. There's no depth in this. So everything is very flat. Very interesting to look at. So it's still stunning. I would happily have this on my wall. So don't get me wrong when I say that. But you can create a little bit more depth in... Okay, is that horn in front? This area and where I'm talking about. Let's actually drag this over so you understand. this horn, as we move around, initially I wasn't able to tell that this was even an animal's horn. I thought it was just a swirly like design. So that was where I think if I would have seen first that it was a horn, it wouldn't create quite the same illusion. But what's happening is what you've shaded this whole thing exactly like this one. If you can create a little bit of a difference, so maybe the horn in the back is a little bit darker than the horn, so it's a little bit lighter, just slight difference, that will help you to create a more accurate, so it'll fix that illusion of, is that horn moving away as it gets smaller or coming closer to you as it's moving smaller? So that would be my tip there. But let's see. I don't know if I can easily, whoa, that's not what I meant to do. I don't know how easy I will adjust this, but let's darken this up just a bit. So what I'm going to do is just color match what you already have and darken it a bit. But if we, oh, I guess I have to actually paint it to make that happen, huh? If we darken just some of it so that it's getting lighter as it moves closer to you. Oops, actually, I'm going to pull that out. I want that to be brighter. What am I doing? Let's make that a bit more opaque. These aren't exactly the right colors. I'm being super sloppy just to show you how you can start creating an illusion where this is a bit closer than that is. Just a bit. Those colors look terrible that I just did, so don't do what I just did. But you can create a bit more of an illusion. The other thing is that you can make that horn, if it overlaps up a little bit over the one behind it, that, or the portion, I guess it's all the same horn, but that will help fix that weird, is it going towards you or against you look. And the thing is, that may be your goal. Maybe you want it to have a bit of an illusion there. That's definitely a valid way to go. But that's one thing that I would adjust is just the shading. Try to make it so that you can tell which portion is closer to the viewer or not. But this is really, really interesting. Now, your shading in general is fairly flat. You don't have a lot. I mean, you could do shadows behind. Let's pull this back up. You could do shadows back behind, oh, come on, drag. Oh, I guess I have to actually click the right layer. There we go. You can do shadows kind of coming behind here a bit, a little bit more shading. You've got detail, but you don't really have many shadows, so it gives everything a bit more of a flat look, and I think you can make it even more interesting than it already is. Oh my gosh. See, the more I look at this, the more I find things. Like, there's beetles and there's mushrooms. This is a fun piece to look at. This is one that I would look at for a really long time, and I would look at it even longer if you hyped up that contrast between your lights and your darks and got some more shadows in there so that there was a bit more depth. But this is really stunning. I love the crop, the composition, really nicely done. Just, yeah, more shadows, more contrast. And yeah, a lot of you are commenting to sign your work. Always sign your artwork. I don't know if that was a separate question in there or from this one. Make sure you sign your artwork because that matters. Next, we have Evelyn Krita. I apologize if I said that wrong. Graphite was aiming for a soft look and realism. It is a 14 by 17 inch. So let's pull these over. You guys are, gosh, you're so amazing. Like, all of the artwork tonight, it's like I can tell everyone who is submitted tonight is just, you guys are all really, really good. Okay. Let's get, whoops. I don't need this one open. So what we're at, we've got a little snow leopard. So first off, you did a great job of working from a photo that was black and white before you, oh, and these are good sizes, before you jumped into drawing it in black and white. It is so much easier to judge your values when you're working from black and white than trying to basically transpose a a color photo into black and white. Great job there. So let's take a, whoops, that isn't what I meant to do. Stop it. I did it again, and now it's, I'm telling you, I am having a day of I'm going to screw up or break everything I touch. I mean, it's to the point now, it's almost ridiculous. Although some of the stuff that didn't go right wasn't my fault. I don't know about the clogged sink still. Or the leaking pipe, whatever. Okay, so the first things, actually I do want to shrink this down just a bit so I can fit both on the screen. Oh, you spent so much time on the details. You said, this is nice. You gave it a really good soft look. The only thing that I would really do differently is the snow leopard, the little guy back here. This all kind of blends out too much, like a little bit more contrast here, because it almost looks like you didn't finish him like you did everything else. It doesn't look like it's the same part. Your darks, I think, could be a bit darker, and then if you can darken up right behind him here, that's going to make that stand out that much more. But that's the only thing I'm really seeing. This is stunning, but it feels like here has this great contrast, and then here I know you wanted a soft look, but I would still pull that one, hype up your contrast. And even if you want something to start moving out of focus as it moves away, if that's what you were trying to do there, you can still have contrast. When you want to soften things, it's about not having harsh lines, like the line between the dark and the light. You just don't want that to be super harsh. But this is really good. Rain says that's her every day. Yeah, that makes me feel better. Weirdest day ever. But I think the weirdest part about today and all the random stuff is that nothing was really bad or like meltdown worthy. It was just that there were so many that happened. It was so weirdest day. But anyway, going back to this, I get off on tangents. So yeah, this, you can get the darks in here a little bit darker because it kind of feels unfinished just in that area. I like the softness that you've got everywhere else. Your contrast in, like, seriously, this is stunning. There's not much. That would be the only thing that I would suggest is get those darks a little bit darker on the back end of him, because he feels not quite like everywhere else. And you know what else I really like on this? Look at how the branches here are darker than what they are in that reference photo. They stand out a little bit more. I like that. I think that was a really good call. Like, so much of this is perfect. It just looks like this area and this edge isn't quite finished. It's a little too bright. But yeah, good job. Yeah, I don't have much advice for you on that other than that section. Well, that was an easy one. Okay, so Lonnie Wolf. I actually already talked to Lonnie about this. She is the amazing person who built the crate over my dog, or she made the wood crate over my dogs. If I was doing one of these live streams and she was saying, I said I was looking to have one done, and I don't remember how I got off into that tangent, but she lives in semi-close, like 5 hours away, and she built one for me, and it's amazing and I love it. But anyway, so I've already talked to her a bunch about this, so I'm not going to go too far in depth. Oh, me as well, to show you guys stuff. So on this one, her goal is realism. She didn't feel like she made it. Polychromos luminance, 20 by 26 inch Canson Me10's black paper. So the problem with working on black paper, now first off, it's skewed. Photo is not even. So that is tip number one. You guys know, unless you're staging it with art supplies and all that, where it's obvious that it's at an angle, get that photo straight on. But the other thing with black paper, it is just, your brights are never going to be as bright as they are on white paper. The pencils are too translucent, so that's definitely going to be a challenge there. It's hard to get the brights bright enough. So what you want to do if you're going to work on black paper, the alternative is to make your darks even darker than what they should be in that reference photo, and that's going to make your brights appear that much brighter. So in this case, everything's just kind of mid-range and really needs more contrast in those darks. Those need to be way, all of the shadows underneath the eye, all the shadows, all of that would just be, if you get those way darker, it's going to make your brights feel way brighter. The things that are amazing with this, the fur texture, all going in the right direction. All of that is good. Now I would probably, along the outer edge here between the black paper and the left side here of the face, the black paper there, get a few extra wisps so it's a looser, lighter feel. Right now it almost looks like it was kind of cut out and stuck on there. So I would pull a few more wisps of fur coming out there. The whiskers, make them a little bit longer, a little bit thicker. They're really thin and short right now, so you would definitely, tiger whiskers generally go out quite a bit longer. The ear is amazing. Those little hairs in there, you did a great job. So those are my main tips there. The other thing with white, don't try or get too focused on making white super white. White isn't white. White is always going to be reflective. It's going to pick up other colors. So in this case, I would pull in blues, magentas, purples, get other colors into those shadowed areas. Some areas can be well, it's more of a gray because it's against the white paper, or I mean the black paper, but you can get these other colors and really play that up. White is not going to be white. Let me see if on my own gallery, if I've got any white animals I can show you guys an example of really quick. The texture, the fur, everything, like, oh, so good. Okay, let's go to my gallery. This is probably the fastest way. I know I've got some white animals in there. Okay, let's look at this butterfly for a second. Look at the blue, how that reflects on his wing. That is a lot of like straight out blue on a very white wing. You want to pull the colors that are in your background into the subject, otherwise it looks very flat. Let's see. Gosh, I got a lot of older ones. Okay, this horse. Look at the bluish gray, the browns. That is a lot of blues in his coat. A lot of blue in that one. Blue, grays. There's only the white, the like actual white along the head, because the light was hitting him when I took that photo, was hitting him so strongly. It was really overexposed. I actually added a little bit more detail than what my reference photo had. But look at the blues and the browns, and it's warm browns and blues and grays that are in that. White animals, that's the struggle that most people have. People try to make the white animals too white. Even this is an older one. Yeah, his white is a bit too white. If I redid that, I'd probably pull other colors into him. Here's another one. Look at here, it's subtle, but look at the purples and the blues in the coat. It's not just straight white. Even there, I feel, well, I say I could go darker, but it worked with the background, so I probably wouldn't change it because I actually like how that one came out. But I mean, you want to get all these other colors. Don't just stick with whites and grays. A lot of times when people are painting an animal that is either a black animal or a white animal, they only think they can use white and black. Like make all your highlights on a black fur with white, or make all the shadows on white fur gray. Well, no, what about the blues and the purples and all the other colors? There's one other thing I want to show you guys, if I can find them. I may have actually scrolled past them. No, oh, here. This is a good example of Canson Me10's the black paper. See how I chose a project that was dark. The shadows, super dark. And that's why my whites look even brighter, because I'm working on paper that is just so, or a shadow, a photo that was so dark. If you're going to use black paper, you have to find the right reference photo for it. And I think an animal that is super light, everything's really bright, probably not the right thing. Or even a still life, if it's super bright, your brights aren't going to be as bright as they would on white paper. So in this case, I chose, whenever I work on black paper, it's going to be an animal that is super in the shadows and just portions are highlighted. And that having so much shadow makes the light areas appear that much brighter. I'm looking for a very specific one I want to show you really quick. Well, these are all really old. Where is he? Here he is. Okay, black animals. Look at the purples and blues in that. That is a lot of purple and blue. Like, a lot. There is very little black in this guy. Majority of it is tan, brown, kind of a gold, red, purple, violet, blue. I mean, look at all those colors. And the same thing when you're drawing white animals. White is not going to be your main color. Don't jump straight to the white. Jump into all of those other colors. Otherwise, if you make everything white, everything one standard color, everything ends up being flat. Get those shadows, get those darks, and get those colors. I mean, you're working with something that has a lot of color. You've got the eyes in there, so pull out those other colors and it'll look so much more realistic. Okay, next, Anche. I'm not going to say that right, and I apologize. My ignorance in names is showing. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to pull this over. She said this is soft pastel on pastel paper, 30 by 40 centimeters. Her first dog, Spencer, her goal is realism and to remember him and his awesome personality peek through the drawing. Such a great angle. That photo is so perfect when you want to capture an animal's personality like that. I think that this is a really good photo to have done this with. So let's pull these over into Photoshop. Okay. So let's stick with what I've done so far. A reference photo on this side. Okay. So you said this was pastels. You're using first off, yellow, not a color on animals. Unless you're drawing birds and fish. I'm sure there's a few other exceptions I'm not thinking of. Yellow is not a color you're going to use. So just pull that out of your list. When we look at things that are cream and tan and all of those, it's not yellow. It's like a warm brown, or even a warm gray, but not yellow. So that's my first tip. Pull that out. Second tip, soften out these edges just a bit. Look at here. Right now, he almost feels like he's cut out and stuck on top. So let's go ahead and shrink this guy down. So right now, this edge is really harsh. It's almost like an outline. Instead of soften it out, your reference photo is actually a good photo. I like this reference photo a lot. Both that it shows his personality and it's just a great shot. Soften out that back edge just a bit. Now in your reference photo, the eye is a little bit out of focus. That obviously I would pull more in focus for sure. So what's happening right now, this almost feels more like pop art than, I think you said your goal is realism, right? Let me double check that before I put my foot totally in my mouth. Okay, realism. Right now he feels a little bit kind of pop art, which is cool. Why do I keep trying to open this? I'm not editing a video. You can tell I edit too many videos. I automatically want to open that instead of Photoshop. That would be one thing for sure. Just watch where you're softening things out. The eye, you're missing, I'm not sure why you put the highlight on the opposite side that it is on the reference photo. So the foundation drawing is a little off. It's not completely accurate. You're pretty close though. So like this here, that's a big lump here. So that would definitely need to be toned down. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of editing on this. And I'll show you some things we can change. Let me see if I can, without pulling this into Lightroom, because I normally don't do it here. Let me see if I can adjust. Channel mixer? Wait, no. Nope, that doesn't do anything. This may not work for me. I normally, the edit that I want to do, I could pull the yellow right out of this in Lightroom, but I don't want to go through the trouble of opening that. Image adjustments. This might. No, this isn't. I'm not even going to mess with this. Okay, so, first tip, pull out the yellow. Next, watch what happens when I change just a few things. Okay. And the thing is that the tips I'm going to give you are so easy to do because you're working in pastel. So like softening things, super easy. So I'm going to head it back over to the Wacom tablet and we'll get this. I'm going to choose the same color as the background and I want to soften, oops, I need an actual paintbrush. I want to start softening that out just a bit. So it just pulls the rest of this back into focus a little bit, but when we can soften that. Let's go ahead. Now, color. He's way too red. Let's actually just desaturate this a bit to show you the difference. Image adjustment, hue saturation. If we just remove some of the color saturation. Oh, I'm on the wrong. I'm on that one. You can remove some of the color saturation, and that alone will pull him into closer to the colors that he should be. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Now, let's go ahead and work on some of these shadows really quick. Now, you want to spend more time on details. I mean, the ear. You basically blocked everything out in just black, and you missed all of the highlights. So let's... Paintbrush. Use the right thing. There we go. I need this to be a lot lighter. We've got highlights in here that form the shape of the ear, and you're actually missing them altogether. So let's pull, just define things All these little things, when you're working in realism, all of these little things add up. As minor as it seems, it really does make a big difference in making it look, look at the difference in now his ear is starting to look more like, that is 2, there we go. And I'm not working on the actual fur texture. I'm just kind of showing you, drawing wise, you're missing some pretty major details in here. So the ear, the way it folds back in roses, now we've got that. Now I'm actually going to take some blue. I have a blue, grayish blue. We've got the highlight here. Whoops, too light. Ooh, way too light. There we go. Pull these colors in there. Here, we've got some blues in here. So where I said desaturate things, pull the yellows out, pull the golds out. Whoa, what did I just do there? Oh, I know what I did there. You just moved to the wrong place. I don't need you. Go away. Wait, I do need you. Why are you there all of a sudden? How did I drag you? Hold on, I have to erase something. I don't even know what I did there. Problem solved. See, I love Photoshop. You can so easily fix screw-ups like what I just did. Let's pull that color back in. So we're going to soften that back up. Okay, let's pull some of these shadows. Let's get some of these darker colors in here a bit more. So we've got these shadows under his face in here. You've got shadows, and that's really what I'm working on. I'm not working on the texture of the fur. That you want to spend, again, you're going more for realism. You're going to have to spend more time there. You almost make your contrast, and I talk about this all the time, hype up the contrast. I think you almost took it even further, where you really darkened up some of these darks more than what you wanted, but then your lights. So let's go ahead. Pull some of that in there. We've got a little, actually, this starts getting more of a warm. Anyway, you can kind of see where I'm starting to build up those shadows. Let's go. So here, you actually, the part of the muzzle here, you tried to create too much fur texture, and that you don't necessarily want. When an animal's fur, like around the muzzle, when you'll see me do this when I'm working on a tiger, where it's really short, don't try to force in brush strokes that don't need to be there, or pencil strokes that don't need to be there. Let it be soft. If the fur is short, let it be smooth. You'll see that a lot when I work on Italian Greyhounds or anything, breeds that, whoops, that's not the right thing, breeds that are have super short hair. But you want to start building this up. A little too opaque there, or translucent. If you can get these shadows, you're going to start getting a much more realistic look. So here's another thing. Look at the tongue, how everything is just light pink. Look at the colors that actually should be. We should be this super dark grayish tone. That is a lot darker in here that we want to start building up. I'm losing detail in there just because it's opaque what I'm going over. But watch those things. Watch, you've got a shadow here that just kind of, it fades out into the black versus just a harsh line there. The nose has almost too much blue. So here you took the blue, but it's almost a bit too much. But I'm not going to spend time. I could spend hours working on that. I just want to show you, start building up those contrasts. Watch the color too. No yellows. No yellows in portraits. But this is really good. Oh, one last thing I did want to show is on the ear, or not the ear, the eye. So let's actually pull this down. A little bit bigger, there we go. I want to get rid of your highlight. So I want to pull that out all together. So this eye, what he actually had, I really like. So let's pull some of this in there. I'm going to make that a little bit more translucent. So he's got the blue on the inner side. Okay, maybe a bit more opaque. And we've got the super white area, or pretty white anyway. that's where I mean, where your light is coming, that is going to work better than what you have right now. And then the shadow here, same thing. I mean, the shadows are just, there's so much I can do with shadows, but spend more time on it, basically. I mean, that's probably my biggest tip. Spend more time working on that. The other thing is here, when you get around the muzzle, you've got, oops, that's not the right one. You've got little clumps. That is too dark. In here, where it follows where the whiskers grow on dogs, you've kind of got a few random lines, but these are actually, these lines that you get the darks in there go in a very specific place. So make sure you get those in the right place. It's where the whiskers are coming out is usually where you get those dark spots. So you want to make sure you've got that. But no, this is good. This is something to be proud of. And I love where you started. I love the angle. I love the photo that you chose, but spend more time. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for you that is going to improve is I think, and I know this because I used to do it so bad myself, and I didn't know why my artwork just didn't look how I wanted. And it was night and day when I decided to start. Hold on, I have a text. Let me make sure it's not my husband wanting me to open the front door. Nope, he is sending me things he wants to buy. He got hooked on building models of like robots and stuff, and he's like addicted now. He just keeps sending me links of stuff he wants. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, so when I started painting, I remember looking at stuff. I would do marine life, and I would paint these corals, and I just thought, you know, you shouldn't have to spend more than, what, 2 minutes on one coral? It's one coral. It's this big. You know, I do these huge paintings, and I thought that it was just the way you hold the sponge. I would do it with a sponge or just stab the canvas with a brush. I didn't understand why mine didn't look realistic like Christian Lassen's. Why did his look? I wasn't spending the time. I was trying to rush through it. Slow down. When I finally realized, just slow down. So I was doing pet portraits, and mine were really, really similar to yours, that style, where it's a little bit looser. It's not, you know, tons of detail, but it still looks like the dog, obviously. You did a great job there. But it wasn't quite what I wanted. And I would spend about 45 minutes on an 8x10 headshot of a dog, and I would do it in graphite. But it never, I wanted it to look like a photograph, and mine didn't. And I finally was like, okay, I'm going to spend 8 hours. Let's see what happens. 8 hours, night and day. You would never know it was the same artist because I just sat there and focused. I see what you're seeing. You can draw. You know what you're seeing there. You're seeing the right things. You're rushing through it. You're doing the same thing I did. Slow down, work on one little ear. You know, spend 2 hours just on the ear. Actually, when I do Italian Greyhounds, because the rose in the ear usually does take me 2 hours. But, you know, slow down. And that is going to make such a difference in your artwork. You've got this. You absolutely have this. Okay, let's see who's next. So I think this is a Shih Tzu. This is from Gail. She did this in acrylics on a 9x12 stretched canvas. It is her dog, Merlin. I love that name. Used a couple of photographs and the actual dog, good. But I'll post reference in the comments. Okay, let's see our reference. Oh my gosh, look at that face. Is he not adorable? Oh, that face. Oh my gosh, so cute. Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay, I think we are good. So let's go ahead and open these up, pull them into Photoshop, and we'll take a closer look. Where'd the artwork go? Wait, okay, there's the artwork. There's the dogs. Okay. So my first tip, pick one photo and one angle for your outline, just to get the basic, you know, line done. Use multiple photos when you're looking at your contrast, when you're looking at fur texture. That's where you want to go with multiple photos. But whenever you're coming up with a composition, normally, there are rare exceptions, but normally I would recommend just get one photo to work from for the outline, the shape of things. Let's pull this down. So that's a good photo. You can see clearly. So this is a good example. This photo, super blurry, super out of focus, but great angle. This one is kind of chopped a little bit different, but you can see the fur texture a lot better. Okay, so let's look at him then. Let's try to move these over a bit so I can see everything at once, or we can all see everything at once. Okay, so first, same thing we were talking about, the crop of the photo. Because your canvas is moving away, it's going to make the top of his head will look smaller than it actually is when it's up close where it should be. So that is the first tip there, just taking a photograph of your art. The next thing, when you paint a black background, oh my gosh, they are a pain to photograph. I spent hours on Saturday getting a photo of my tiger. And it's still not a good enough photo to print because it was a little bit grainy because the lighting I had to use in order not to have the reflection. It is a pain to get a good photo without the reflection. I'm gonna have to work with filters next time. But you want to try getting a photo, spend more time in different locations of the house. Different locations, you'll be able to get a photo that's clear without the glare, depending on the lighting coming through that room, and just try a bunch of places until you find one, because you're gonna have to, if you like black backgrounds, or any dark backgrounds, you're gonna have to learn how to photograph that without getting that really strong glare. So next tip, white, not white. We talked about this before. The reason that yours is white is you used a flash when you took a photo, or whoever took the photo of this guy. So when you use a flash for a photo, it makes for a cute photo. That's fine. Doesn't make it easy for you as an artist to translate that and make it look realistic. What's happening is you've washed out the white. You can't easily see where your lights and your darks are, the shadows in the fur and the white. So when you go to paint it, you're like, okay, one solid sheet of white. You can't see the details that you need to see. So you don't want to use a flash for getting a photograph. You ideally really, really, really want to use, I like outdoor natural light, or like natural light coming through a window. I'll usually take the photo indoors, but have strong lighting come through. Early morning, late afternoon is going to give you the best lighting. And usually you don't want to get lighting that's super even in the front. It looks better when you're doing portraits if you can have the lighting coming from one side or the other. So that is going to make it a challenge for you, just because these photos, you can't really see a lot of what you need to see. That's definitely right there, probably my biggest tip is not using a photo with a flash, because you just can't see what you need. When you get into the browns here around the muzzle, oh, come on, I'm not trying to draw on you. Undo that. Come here. There we go. So the muzzle, the color here, you're using these browns and grays, but the actual color is almost the same, and it even has a bit of a magenta in it as the fur on these areas. The other thing, on this photo here, even though it's out of focus, you can still see, look at the curve, that nice curve where the fur is coming around his muzzle, then the fur that's coming from around his eye. Look how it curves out. You've got two clumps. Actually, I'm going to take a black line, and we're just going to look at some of these clumps. So let me get rid of this. Oops. Okay. Gail says I'm a lousy photo taker. No flash. Yeah, this is indoor lighting or a flash, because the highlight in the eye tells me that it's one or the other. It's really harsh indoor lighting, or one or the other is happening there. And you don't want that. Try not to use indoor lighting at all. Then if it's not a flash, then you just don't want to use, that light. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to use straight black. We'll just paint this. Look at the clumps. Oops, that's going to need to be super opaque. Actually, opacity. I want to change my brush to a hard one. So watch these clumps and clusters. Ooh, too thick. Let's thin that out a little bit more. Start getting these curves. This is going to make a big difference. See how these group together? It's clumps and clusters. When you are drawing animal fur, you want to catch that. What's happening on yours over here, it's like straight. Everything's straight. There's no curves. You're missing these amazing shapes, and this photo is really good because you can, even though it's out of focus, you can see what you need to as the artist to start getting those curves, get that natural movement. Look at how these curve, the darks over the light. So that natural movement, what's happening on yours, it's very stiff. Everything's very, 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 very stiff, very straight lines. When you're painting things, when it comes to nature, whether it be like a landscape, you're painting flowers, whatever, or animals, there are very few straight lines. Try to loosen things up and get a bit more of that flow. And so like here, we've got areas, look at how that white is in a specific location. Look at that dark that came in here on his hair. You're missing that on the other one. Look at these shapes. Look at the curve. You've actually done a good job on the curve on this section. Really nice. You've done pretty good here. But these clumps, these clusters of the fur around the face, these are what you want to watch. This is going to give you all this amazing movement. Here, his fur, look how it curves here, then it curves there around his lips. Those curves, those shapes, here, that curves out this way. Make sure you've got that curve. Those are going to make a big difference. For your eyes, same thing. The flash makes it hard with the highlight. But even with that highlight, if you do have a photograph that you're working with a highlight, find a better photograph of a clear eye and look at the highlight. Let's actually just show you. No, it's not a good clear highlight. Let's see if any of these are big enough to show you what I mean. Maybe not. Actually, he might. It's not super. Okay, I don't think any of these are going to blow up big enough for me to really show you what I mean on the highlight. I'm trying to be lazy and not pull up an actual photo, and it's not working. Yeah, I don't think anything's going to blow up big enough on the side. Okay, so sorry. That is not going to be helpful at all. But you don't have to follow the highlight exactly in the photo. Sometimes you, like the last one we looked at, I thought that highlight was better than the highlight that was added in by the artist. But sometimes you have a highlight like this where it's from indoor lighting, it's unnatural, it doesn't look super realistic. And if you take highlight that would have a curve, you'll normally see me do this with like a blue, it slightly curves around the eye, and then the whiter highlight on the top. That's going to make it look much more realistic. The other thing, you're really missing out on his his little tear lines. See this around here, how you've got dark and then you've got a row of light right into it? You're missing out on that on yours. It just kind of starts, it's like eyeball hair. Make sure you get that highlight in there. Those little details, they seem so minor, but if you can get those in there, it's going to make your work look so much more realistic. And this is the cutest pup ever. Like, seriously. Oh my gosh, that face. But you're doing good. And it's so funny. I love watching your guys' work because it's exactly where mine was. Like, this is where I started with portraits. So if you ever are looking at your work and you're like, I'm never going to get it to be as realistic as I want, I at one point thought that too. I did not think my work would go from where it was to where now it's where I wanted it. This is what my goal was. And I didn't think I was going to do it. I didn't think it was possible because I had stuck in my head too much. This is just how I paint. This is how, that's just my style. No, it wasn't. I needed more practice. The fact that I went from portraits, and I've got to find one. When I go, I'll be visiting my parents in September. I will get a photo of this portrait I painted of my grandmother's poodles. Oh my gosh, it is painfully horrible. I mean horrible, like yours is actually good. Mine was horrible. I never thought I would go from that to what I've gotten to. So just keep going, keep painting. Like maybe I'm more encouraged for you guys because I know, like I can see what you're doing and I know you're going to be amazing. I know because I started a few steps, like skill levels lower than where you're at right now, I guess. So you're doing good. Just keep up with it. So let's see who's next. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Gail. It's nice that you've got these good photos. Spend some more time getting photos. I always recommend, artist or not, spend time. With our cell phones get amazing photos now. Spend the time getting good photos of your pets because if down the road you want a portrait done or decide to paint one yourself, you're limited. You only have the photos you've already taken. If there's a possibility, and obviously you want a portrait of him, any of your pets, any of you guys, take lots of good photos. You don't have to want to paint it today or tomorrow or even 5 years later. But in 10 years, if you're like, I really wish I had a good shot of that cat or an older pet that you obviously can't get photos of anymore, spend the time getting those photos. Oh, he's so cute. I love his face. Okay. So now we've got Kathy McDaniel, sorry. My original thought was to finger paint this portrait of Jazz. This was done with acrylics and the background part of the basket and the part of Jazz's fur were done that way. However, I found it was too difficult to get to finger paint the entire painting. I am not a painter, so the entire painting was frustrating to me. This is on an 11 by 14 inch canvas panel. Okay. Well, apparently you are a painter, so that's not a true statement. Let's go ahead and save this. I already love that you didn't just jump straight to white for all the whites. So that's good. Let's see. Where's the kitty? Here's the kitty. I've never tried finger painting. This is really interesting. I like the texture that you've got. Okay. So, you completely changed his expression. I don't know if that was a goal. I like the basket. I like the texture. I like the texture in the background. So the finger painting actually worked really well for you. I think you did a really good job. I can see even when you get into the cat's fur, I can see the direction of the fur. That's good. But when we get to the cat's head, this is where it starts. I've got two main things. One, I think the whites need to be even brighter. And this could just be an issue of the photograph underexposing stuff. But get those whites a bit brighter. That's going to make a difference. And the other thing is you've changed the shape of his head, like all over the place, actually. This is just to kind of show you. And I mean, I'm not going to be able to actually, I'd have to kind of start over more to show completely. But his head, his mouth, his nose here, look at how, whoa, what did I just do there? You've got these lines. Simplify it. I'm kind of making it boxy just to kind of simplify the shape of the head. So those lines here, we're missing. The nose is way too long. We'd want to chop that down some. Well, mine's actually too small now. I'm kind of going by what's there. So, I mean, you can see what I mean, though. That the actual shape here this is actually longer here than, so something closer to that. I mean, look at the difference in the shape of the nose there. And then the same thing when we get to the eye. Your eye would need to be way larger to really capture his little expression. Beautiful cat. I love the markings. I actually really like the ear. Great job on the ear. I wouldn't, well, you've got a few little details you could get in. But I mean, the shape of the face there is definitely the main problem with, it's not capturing him because it's too elongated there. You're also missing a spot on his butt. He actually, this section here, looks like where his tail starts. That back here is supposed to be the same reddish color. So my next thing, the color here, you can definitely pull out a lot more of the contrast. Let's pull here, a little bit bigger. And normally I'm always saying white is not white, but here let's just pull that out a lot brighter than what we've got. Oh, that is too blue. Try again. But this area in here, if we can brighten up some of this, it's going to give you a lot more dimension if you can get your brights brighter. I like how you've darkened up your darks. I think you did a really, really good job on the blues. I love that you pulled the blue in there. I love so much of that. But we've got these highlights that were just completely, whoops. See, I don't know why I try to paint with my mouse because I can't. I have to actually use the Wacom tablet. But we're missing a lot of these highlights in here that would make a big difference in suddenly making him look more realistic. But so those are my tips for you on this one. Get the highlights. I like the finger paint. I actually think that's really cool. Love that. But even when you're working in a different style, you're painting different, you still want to watch that your values are correct. Your values, your contrast, and then in this case, that foundation drawing is just, his nose is way longer than it should be there. Like, I can see what you're looking at, but it's something that you want to watch. And then again, the eye, watch that's more open like that. So I hope that helps. I love the lighting that you did on the basket. I think you did a really great job. Just those two little things would make a huge, huge difference for you. Nice work. Beautiful cat. Okay. Next, we have Neil Patel. Ah, see, now I'm going to be a little harsh because this is actually based off my drawing, which means I know more about it. That's scary. Beautiful. I love you. Okay. But then on the flip side, I like your water better than mine. So this was inspired by one of my drawings. My goal for this piece was to make it realistic and as colorful as possible. You met that goal. Still new to colored pencil, and it has become one of my favorite mediums. This piece was completed with Prismacolor and Polychromos on Fabriano Artistico Extra White Hot Press 100. God, that name is long. Watercolor paper. There are some things that I would do differently next time. First, considering this was my third colored pencil drawing, there are so many fish and corals in this piece. I would not include so many things next time, considering it was done on 11 by 14. Yeah, that is definitely a challenge. Also, I noticed that the water has a grainy look. I could have added more layers to that. Sorry I couldn't add my reference photos because there were a lot of them. Trust me, I understand. I did the same thing. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this. Okay. Man, you did a good job getting that much detail too in the 11 by 14. Really good job. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Okay. So one of the main things that you're going to want to watch, and I actually think even though it's small, you did a good job with all of that, the details in there. I like that you put your watermark on there too. Good job. Or at your handle. Guessing Instagram or Twitter. Let's see. The first thing that I want to look at, let me get these out of the way. Pull a handy little arrow up. Okay, so the first thing is that this turtle, at least on mine, the turtle was kind of my main goal. You know, the focus was around the turtle. So the turtle here is just kind of blending into the coral. He doesn't have enough contrast. So here, one of the big things I would do differently is instead of going with such dark blues, dark purples, pull more of the creams and tans out on him, get more contrast on him because he is being lost. Like his head right here being blue up against blue. Yeah, they're different blues, but he's still being lost. Now his fin here does stand out pretty well. It's almost like you use too many of the same colors in the coral onto him. I would have mixed that up a bit so that he, you want to get that contrast so he stands out. A couple things that I want to point out. I love the fish. See how all of these are at a different angle completely. Your fish in the background are a different angle. The fish here, you use the same photo I did there. Your fish, all of these being at a different angle. When you are painting marine life, that is a really, really, hold on, text. Oh, what is my husband texting me now? Some kind of airbrush for, now he wants to airbrush the models he's painting. He's not using mine. I just got a new airbrush, by the way. I'll be reviewing soon. Well, I got the new airbrush. The compressor comes on Friday. Anyway, moving on. You want to make sure that the subject stands out. But okay, go. I backed up too far. Forward in a little bit more. So the angle of the fish. See how you've got different angles of the fish. If you are going to paint marine life, don't paint all the fish. Like one of the things I used to do when I was younger, because I didn't understand copyright, first of all, but I would get these art books and all the fish, or not art books, fish books to use as reference. And all the fish were all at the side, so you could easily identify them. So all my fish, when I would paint them, were side view. And I've seen other like famous marine life artists who did that too. And it wasn't until I started seeing Christian Lassen's where he started twisting it, or his always have been twisted and turned in natural, movement angles. You don't want to do all flat fish going sideways or it will look very flat. And you did a perfect job here. You've got a nice balance. Yeah, most of them are semi sideways and that's what I do too. But you've also got mixed in. I mean, this yellow tang back here. Look at the angle of that fish. That is a beautiful angle and you shaded him great using the oranges and magentas and not just jumping into black. Don't jump into black when you're painting a yellow fish. It does not look good. You can do a little bit more, like this guy can have a bit of a shadow under, and this is just because I'm familiar with this type of fish. Let me actually add another layer and show you. Okay. Let's see. I'm just checking the chat, making sure I'm still... Hold on. Let me pull up the YouTube video. I want to make sure I didn't get disconnected or anything fun like that. Nope, that is still going. Okay. Back to work. So, one of the things that I would do, let's pull up our paintbrush. I need to make that way smaller. It's going to not need to be opaque. I've got to change all my settings really quickly. Okay, so you need a little bit of a shadow underneath his body here, because that's where his body goes. And then I also like to put a little bit of a highlight on these guys, usually with some blue over the black. Get that highlight. Kind of goes across here, makes them look a little sparkly, a little shiny. Right now, everything, it's almost a bit too magenta, so I would pull out more highlights for sure. Why am I doing it this way? So even on these guys, let's go a little bit lighter. Let's get more of those highlights showing up. So we don't necessarily want the shadow on the top of the fish. We want the highlight on the top of the fish. Keep the shadow, the darker portion, on the bottom edge. Same thing here. When you get into the corals, pull those highlights out more. I'm gonna actually increase the opacity here. But pulling these highlights, make these stand out. Same thing over here. We can get more, like way more in the highlights. It's like you've got all your darks are pretty good, but I think a lot of these, want to get these lights a bit brighter. So here, let's make this turtle stand, oh, this is not the right color. But actually, it would take me way too long to sit here and do much with the turtle. But the turtle, you really want to lighten up the whites on his head. Let's make him stand out. I'm just scribbling at this point to show the difference. I mean, when we can start highlighting, like this fin. This fin, the light is hitting it. That fin on the outside edge is really close to where the light hits. That needs to be really bright in this case. Even the blue, we're going to lighten up. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Let's highlight that. We're going to highlight this. Highlight that shell. Make that shell stand out. It's blending in with that background. Pull those highlights. Now, I'm not doing the most amazing job here, but you get the idea. Brighten this up. And then we can go back to the fish. Same thing. Let's get the highlights on these fish a bit more. Now, I'm just using basically straight white at this point, so it's not necessarily as accurate as it could be. Well, at all. I would add more colors, but you can get an idea. Get those highlights. Your highlights are, everything's a little bit too muted. So if we can pull some of those highlights, like right now, being that you've got this coral in the background behind the turtle, don't use that pink in the turtle's shell. Use some, not much. Instead, go with a color that's going to contrast it a lot, whether that be blues or purples, but don't use that pink. It's too much. He's blending in way too much to those corals. So, I mean, contrast is just a very, very big deal in creating something that looks a little bit more three-dimensional, makes things start standing out more. So we pull those highlights out and see how, I mean, just that little thing with white would make a lot of these fish, a lot of the coral, just pop a little bit more depth. So that is my tip for this. I think you did a great job. Yeah, a few more layers on the water. See what you're looking at there. A few more layers would get rid of that grainy, gritty look. You're being rough. You were kind of being super sloppy when you went back and forth, so I can see the water streaks a bit more than you typically would want when you get down towards the bottom sections. The water streaks up top, yes. When it gets down to the bottom, you want to smooth that out. So move more into little ovals or circles with that colored pencil, and that's going to smooth that out a lot for you. But you did a really good job. I love this. You should be, like, all you guys who have submitted that I've gone through these tonight should be seriously proud of yourselves. So let's see what is, or who is next, not what is next. Randy Sprout. This is Spring Sunrise, Mooker, 11 by 9 watercolor on 140-pound Arches hot press. Oh, I just bought a bunch of that. My goal was, this looks expensive, huh? My goal was to get that early morning light to bounce along the landscape. Okay. Oh, that is not what I meant to do. Oh, I'm trying to change settings. Hold on. That was hitting the wrong. I don't know what I did. Okay. Here we go. Oh, that's beautiful. That sun. Oh, it's so pretty. Okay, so the only thing that I would say really is you could get away pretty safely with hyping up the yellows, brightening them up a little bit more. I don't, here, this is going to take me a while because Lightroom is slow, but I want to see it. Maybe easier for me to just quickly, I'll do it here. I go back. I can't make decisions. Whoops, that's not what I meant. So when you want to get that early morning light bouncing around a bit more, you might want to hype up that contrast just a bit. So let's add another layer. And just for reference, or to point out, I know I'm doing an absolutely terrible job. Like, this is the most half-done Photoshop jobs I'm doing, just to go through quickly to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about with stuff, but I'm not using real good techniques here. So let's see. Okay, what I want to do is just hype up. Actually, I think the darks are good. I wonder if just, let me try this really quick. This may be enough. No, because I don't want to affect that. Okay, decisions. I can't make them. Oh. Let's see. I should have a brush that would be better for this. Give me 1 second. This may be too much. Oh yeah, that is not going to work for me. Ugh. Okay, let's go back to the airbrush just to show you lighting. So I'm going to lose the texture in doing this, and I apologize because you don't want to lose that texture, but this one might work for me. Yeah, that actually will probably work. Okay, so we want to just start, highlight some of these areas as you come down just a bit. Not, you want to kind of almost do clumps. Actually, down back here is great. I would just hype up that contrast a bit on some of these. And see how if we pull out some of these really bright areas to where the light is really starting to catch some of that. You don't need a lot, just a little bit more, I think, can give you that extra punch that kind of draws that attention down. And not a lot, like that's pretty much all I would do there. I might on the water pull out a little bit. Hold on, let me change, whoops, change that brush a bit. So for the water, you might want to pull a few little brighter sparkly guys where the light would be hitting that too. Not much, but it'll just give it that extra sparkle in there. I'm doing a, like I said, terrible job, but you actually, I think I have a brush. I'm not going to go through looking for it. I think I have an Air and Blaze brush. Actually, I know I do. It makes sparkles in the water and it's really cool, but a few extra sparkles there, but pulling out the highlights of the yellow just a bit more, I think will make a big difference in getting that glow that you were talking about, for the water. Not here. I actually should not have pulled that across there. That looks weird. There we go. No, this is stunning. This is beautiful. I love it. Is so pretty. I just want to keep looking at it because it makes me happy. But yeah, just a little bit more punch on the lightening up somewhere where the light's hitting on the grass, but not much. Like you would not, I may have even gone overboard. You don't want to go overboard on that. Okay. We have Dina. This is an 18 by 24 acrylic painting on traditional canvas. My goal is to have it look professional, beautiful, in my own unique style. So not generic looking. That's cool. I mean, there's not a... Oh. I'm trying to think if there's much I would... This is when you kind of have to back up and squint at to see if there's anything I would... It's definitely not generic looking. My main thing here, the only thing I want to really point out, I think her ear may be a bit on the small side, but she could just have small ears. That is possible. But her nostril here, the nostril on the right side of the painting is too bright. That's in shadow. It should not be as bright as it is on the left. I would tone that highlight down a little bit. This is definitely one you have to back away at to really get. It looks really cool though. Like really cool. Yeah, I don't really have much more for you. I mean, if you're going for realism and I have the reference photo, I can give a lot more tips. But being that you're going for something that's more stylized, it looks professional. That nose, the highlight on the nose, though, that's definitely... Both nostrils, I think the highlight is a bit too bright. And the highlight on the right-hand side of the painting, so it would be her left nostril, definitely way too bright. Tone that way down. No, that's good. I mean, you hit this very stylized feel, which you said was your goal. So the photograph, you do want to watch. And this is, like I was talking about before, getting a photograph of something that has a black background, super challenging because it's highlighting on different areas that you don't want. It's also giving you a bit of a grainy, gritty, like a green tint to it. If you do something in black and white, one of the things that you can do is in Photoshop, let's just save this to Photoshop and take a look real quick. I'll show you. Whoop, stop trying to open there. That's not what I wanted you to do. I changed the settings accidentally somewhere along the line, and now it keeps wanting to open when I don't want it to. Okay. So let's go with a duplicate layer. So the nostrils I want to do as the first thing I'm going to change. They are just way too bright. So I'm just going to tone those down. Whoa, what brush am I using? That is not the brush I want. Okay, so just kind of, oops. I just want to tone that down. You can see that it's there. We don't want to see it that much. I mean, you probably don't want the nostrils to be the center of attention, and that's what's happening. The other thing, I would probably tone this down just a bit on the chin. You are getting your attention, I think, drawn a little bit too much. Just by toning that down a bit, it's still highlight. But now my attention isn't straight going to that spot on the chin. When I backed away, that was really, that in the cheek is getting me a little bit. I'll just tone that down a little. Okay, so there's that. Here's the big tip. You take this, and when you take it, more often than not, when I take a photograph of something, I am almost always, like, not almost always going to have to do some Photoshop to make it look as much like the original as possible, because there's just, when you take the photo, things happen and it doesn't. So, whoops, that's not what I wanted. I should push the right buttons. I'm getting really tired. My eyes are blurry. Let's see. Black and white. So, now that green tint that I had, it was just a slight, I don't know if you can see the difference. There's the green. There's no green, and then the nostril tone down. It's a black and white painting. Photoshop it to be black and white, so any reflections that black is picking up, colors around the room or whatever, you just got rid of them. You just fixed like so many problems that you may have had in the photograph by just switch it to black and white. In the photo, it's a really easy fix. So I do the same thing if I take a graphite. Now with graphite, slightly different. I usually will just desaturate it because usually my graphite isn't straight black and white. The graphite, and depending on the paper I'm using, is usually a little bit of a warmer tone, and when I make it into black and white, it usually makes it a cooler tone, so I have to mess with that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, every time with graphite I have to change it because the colors, the white paper or whatever is going to want to pick up the colors around it, but it's supposed to be a black and white. You can Photoshop that and fix it. As long as it looks like the original does in person, I am happy. But when that photo, any reflective surface is picking up hold on, more texts. When the photo is picking up the colors of the reflections around it, you don't really want that on the photo you're posting like on social media or on your gallery. Make it look black and white as you actually drew it. But yeah, those little things, just tone down the nostril a little bit, make it in black and white for the photo, and you are good. Okay, it is 9:58. We're going to do one more for tonight, and then next time I do one of these critiques, I'm trying to do them once a month, we will pick up where we left off. So if you've posted yours and you're like, oh my gosh, you're almost to mine, I'll get there. We're just going to continue on when we pick up next time. So this is Amanda Moore Ritchie. This is a color pencil portrait I did for my grandmother-in-law of her brother while he was in a Green Beret. It was a surprise for a 70th birthday. Everyone was pleased, but I could tell something was off. I just couldn't put my finger on it. It is an 11 by 14. My goal is to be more accurate with my proportions, more realistic. Thank you for doing this. Below is my reference photo. Okay, cool. When you work with photos that are older, they're a challenge. I did my grandparents' wedding photo, and back then, I mean, the cameras just weren't what they are today. So it is always a challenge to stop trying to open. I don't want you to, I'm gonna have to fix that. Whatever is making it open every time I save a photo. So definitely a challenge, but I try, when I've worked with older photos, I try to intentionally make the painting look older too, like capture that. When I try to make it look like a new photo, something that was taken today, it never comes out right. But like what you did, you kept it with these older tones. I love that. So let's see. You've got a bit more of a highlight over the eye on the left, not much. Your I mean, just some of the shadows aren't quite as dark like here. I know you're looking for specifics, but they're so minor. Wow, hold on, I've got way too much open. I was done with. And what else am I done with? I'm done with that one. Okay. So, let's pull our handy little arrow. There we go. Phil asked what brushes I'm using for Photoshop. I am mostly using a set from Aaron Blaise. If you go to his website, I think it's creatureteacher.com, I think is his. Look up Aaron Blaise. He was the animator of The Lion King. Really well-known guy. He has, amazing artist. He has a ton of Photoshop brushes that I love for like doing water and sparkles on the water. Like I love his brushes, and they're all really reasonably priced. And they go on sale all the time too. Like I got most of mine, I think it was like a Black Friday sale, and they were all way cheap. So, okay. This is what I'm seeing as far as just looking at differences, but these differences don't mean that you did anything wrong either. These shadows look a little bit darker on the reference photo than yours. I think you lightened yours a bit more. This cheek could be a little bit darker there. Not much. You are like, this looks, and it could be the angle of the photo. It looks like yours at the base, the body is widened. It's stretched out. Oh, it's a different jacket. That's why. Did you use two different reference photos, or that's kind of the same? The jacket, the perspective on the jacket is off. I think that's where the main thing is going. So that's all I'm really seeing. Really? Yeah. I mean, the face looks super accurate to me. A little bit more of a shadow you could use under this lip here. I mean, and this is getting so nitpicky, but yeah, the jacket, the perspective of the jacket looks a little bit weird, like it's a little bit wider, but maybe it's the crop. Yeah, that may be because you cropped yours different. That may all be causing that illusion. Let's see. So we're down to the second button, chopped off part of the button. Yeah, your jacket does look a little bit wider. It looks like there might be something here that's a little bit minor. Like the arm, I think it's the arm looks wider. Like it should be coming down here a little bit more. Well, or I guess I should use the arrow. Like, dang it. Hold on. There we go. It looks like here should come down a little bit more. I think that this arm here is a little bit wider. I think that's the main thing that I'm seeing. A few more shadows on, like here could have had a darker shadow. But really well done. Like there's not much on this, honestly, that I would change. Now, one thing you might want to, your tans and your browns are all greenish gray brown versus this, the reference photo has the more kind of an orangey, more warm brown, where yours is kind of a cooler, like muddy gray. That would be something that I might change a little bit. Just in the color there. You use basically the same colors in his jacket as you did on his skin, which is what it is in the reference photo, because it has that older feel to it. You might want to warm up the skin tones just a teeny bit. I'm really not seeing much. Yeah, Jody says the stripes on the sleeves are different. Maybe that's throwing it off a little, but not really. I think that this actually is a little different. Like the actual width of the sleeve looks different to me. Like there's a little bit of a perspective thing going on here on this. And these are such minor things. Like the average person, you show them this, no one's going to notice the difference. I'm being super nitpicky just because you asked, like you said something felt off to you. But there's not much. I mean, the color would be one. I'd probably pull a little bit more of an orange tint into his skin and the shadows, like just a little. And not even orange. It's like a burnt, like raw sienna or burnt sienna. Burnt sienna. There's your shadow tone. It's kind of this, it's still a grayish kind of, it's muted. Like it would be, what is it? Cadmium cadmium mortem, whatever color pencil piece name I never get right. Those of you on Patreon are used to me saying that one. But that's pretty much a very similar color to what I would include in some of the shadows here. But the drawing looks really accurate. The eyebrow, here's one little thing. I don't know if this is making a difference to what you're seeing. Let's see. Yeah, Valerie said the jacket would be more fitted. I think that's what it is too. The jacket almost feels like it's maybe a size too big for him. It doesn't look that way in the reference photo, but yours, it looks almost like a little bit baggier. But look, if we look at his eye here, this is a really big highlight, like a chunk that kind of comes out there. And on yours, it's just smoothed, kind of rounded out there. So that might be one minor difference. This could be here rounded a little bit more on yours. And I'm, again, super nitpicky. I know that. Like right here, just kind of chopping off just the top of that eyebrow. It's kind of up at a point a little bit more. And here, you want to really get to where we can see? Let's do this. This is if you're having a hard time seeing. Let's go. I'm going to flip these over. When you flip things over, you will start seeing things that you never saw before. So let's blow these up a little bit more. Yeah, see, these are the points that I was talking about. They're pretty much the same. It's just a little bit easier to notice. So on this one, like here, just see how it's a little bit more rounded than yours is? Yours, the eyebrow comes up a little bit more at a point, minor. Then we've got that shadow there that we talked about. The hair here comes down a little bit further in front of his ear, right in here, just a little bit. His cheek here is a little bit more harsh. Your shadow is a bit softer than it is on the reference photo. His is a bit more chiseled. His upper lip could be a bit more shadowed, and then the bottom lip a bit more shadowed. The differences in the eyes, I like yours better. So, I mean, because you hyped up certain color saturate or contrast that I think looks better. That's really about it. I mean, this is really, really well done. These are super, super minor differences. I like that you kept with this old feel, though, that you didn't just try to make it look like a photo that was taken with today's photos. I like the feel of that a lot better. You did a great, great job on this. So, yeah, that is it for today. Yeah, that's hard to find. That one was hard to find anything I would adjust on. You are so accurate, like so. The things that I'm finding are so minor that I don't think that most people would even ever notice. Like they are, oh, Sorry, this one was slightly sharper. Well, we already did it. We're good. So, next time we start with a mermaid. But no, you guys did great. Again, if you want to submit for this, I will let you know in the art group in the future when I open these back up. I don't even know how many more we have before we get to that point. Yeah, you can see there's a lot. Oh, and there's more comments. Yeah, there's a lot of submissions to go through first. But oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. Some of these I love the background. Just looking at what you got. Oh, that's the actual reference photo. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Sorry, I'm getting to see, this is why I don't get work done. I get distracted looking by things going, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. You guys are doing great. So I'm excited to do this next month. And yeah, that is about it for tonight. Let's go back over to, where did the chat window go? Thanks again for joining. Thanks. Oh, I didn't even mention our moderators tonight. The links to their channels are in the video description. Valerie and Joseph. And I never looked. Oh, you lost the audio. Is the audio still gone? Hold on. Let me check. Thanks again for. No, it's still there. Check out Joseph and Valerie's channels and possibly Nick Edgar's, because Nick, hold on. Do you have a channel? Let's look. I think I can, well, let's do this. Oh, that's the stream. Let's look up Nick's channel. And hopefully nothing scary comes up. Oh, there's a few different Nick Edgars. What are you using on here? Hold on. Yeah, Nick Edgar. Yes. Let's go Nick Edgar Art. There we go. Found him. Okay, Nick has a channel too. You guys should check that out. Thank you guys so much. Oh, look at that, Pennywise. For joining me tonight, and thank you to the moderators for helping. Make sure to check out their channels, subscribe. They all have awesome stuff. Apparently Nick does too, and I didn't even know. I'm a jerk for not knowing that because he's a friend. So yeah, we will see you next week where we will actually be working on art. I'm not sure which. I just put up a bunch of new Patreon reference photos that I'm so excited about. They are actually, I'm going to show you because I'm really excited. Let's take a look at the Patreon reference photos this month. I did a bunch of still life photos, which I don't normally do. Still life photos are so much work, so much more so than going to the zoo and taking photos. So these are, oops, that's not going to show you anything good. Let's open these over into Photoshop, or I guess I have to actually drag them. I'm really tired. Can you guys tell? But I really want to draw one of these. I'm not sure what it's going to be. So let's get the other ones. The Patreon, the $9. Here we go. Oops, that is not what I meant to do. I have a bad habit of doing that. Hold on. I have to undo what I just made a mess of. There we go. Okay, let's try that again and put it in the right location. Here we go. So now I can show you the fun photos. So these were our reference. My friend Kendra took that photo. That's one of the photos. But these are the still lifes I took, and I really want to do a still life. I want to do pastels. I also want to play more with the new airbrush. So, I may end up just doing this normal colored pencil and airbrush. But these are some of the photos that I just did for Patreon, and I am definitely drawing one of these myself. Look at the pretty roses. I was so excited with some of these. I like that one for fall. But yeah, I haven't decided which one that I want to draw, but I do know I'm probably going to end up airbrushing in the background of whatever I do. I don't know if this will be next week or the week after that I'll do one of these still lifes, but I'm excited. Oh wait, there's more. Are there more? There are more. They're just not all showing up right now. Anyway, that is all. It'll probably be either that or another wild. I know chances are I'm going to want to play with the airbrush for next week because I got the new one. But yeah, I've got to do more pan pastel, and I may do the pan pastel in one of these too. I'm actually tempted to do that with these roses. Where were they? Those roses, I would really like to do play with the pan pastels, or the, where do they go? These ones in the jar are the ones that I'm most, and then maybe combine a bit of colored pencil. Kind of leaning towards these. So anyway, we'll be doing it'll either be colored pencil or pan pastels next week. I'm not sure which one. Valerie wants to know what brand of airbrush. It was the Grax, I think. Grax, Grax, I forget which. It has like green on it. I don't know. Not on the airbrush, but they're like highlight main brand color is green. So yeah, I will be playing with that. And yep, that is all. I am going to go play with Chicken for a while. I promised him that we could play Warcraft when the live stream was over, so it is time for that. I will see you guys next week. Thanks again for joining.